Matt Colville did a series called Mimnos, Movies You Might Not Otherwise See, to highlight movies with something interesting or unique about them, be it exemplary dialogue or a great scene. I think those videos are lost to time now, but I've linked to his channel below. Check it out. So I got to thinking I'd do something similar for video games, highlighting games of yesteryear that had interesting ideas or mechanics that are worth checking out. Gimnop, if you will. Gimnop? Games you might not otherwise... Anyway, let's talk about SWAT4. SWAT4 was developed in 2005 by Irrational Studios. It was the game they made just prior to BioShock. It's a tactical first-person shooter along the lines of early Rainbow Six titles or Ghost Recon, focusing on the police rather than counter-terrorist or special forces. More so than its unique setting, SWAT4 has a robust rules of engagement system that dictates when force can and can't be used. I'm going to sidestep the absolutely massive bucket of worms that is police use of force in the United States right now, mostly because I'm a coward and partially because this isn't really the place for that. Instead, I'll say merely that Rules of Engagement is an underrated sitcom from a few years ago, and also that it is a vital concept to both police and military operations, dictating when and how they can use force in dangerous situations. Boy, I picked a bad time to cover this game. Back to SWAT4. The mission structure of SWAT4 is reminiscent of others in its genre. There's an environment populated with bad guys, hostages, and other side objectives. You and your team have to go in and secure that environment. At the end of the mission, the player is awarded points, of which they need a minimum in order to proceed. See? Points. Video games. Everything is fine. If a player does a thing they're not supposed to, like shoot an unarmed suspect or display an unauthorized use of force, they're penalized. Each bad act deducts points from their overall score. Make too many rash decisions, panic in the face of fire, or go through the level like Dirty Harry and the player won't meet the minimum score, requiring them to replay the level until they get it right. In order to succeed, the player has to proceed carefully, keeping their cool and documenting their actions.
Here, get down! Here.
The player not only has to pacify the bad guys, they have to handcuff people at the scene, secure dropped weapons, and call in the status of suspects and the injured to TALK, or Tactical Operations Command. You are going to be hearing TALK an awful lot in this game.
TALK, this is entry team. Entry team to TALK. Entry team to TALK. TALK, this is entry team. TALK, this is entry team. We have a dead suspect.
Like most games in this subgenre, the levels are the same, but enemy placements are randomized. This keeps the game fresh, as the player is never really sure what lies around the corner, and forces the player to continually re-examine their situation and what actions they will take. Not only is the enemy placement randomized, but their actions largely are too. Sometimes bad guys surrender as soon as you announce your presence. Sometimes they run. Sometimes they pretend to surrender or move to a more defensible position. It keeps the player guessing and prevents the player from simply memorizing what to do when. It can lead to situations like this absolutely clutch moment where I ran out of ammo at the exact wrong time, managing to scare the bad guy into surrendering anyway, and then got my head blown off by the guy waiting behind the door. What really interests me about this system is how it builds a more robust experience by limiting the player. Most first-person shooters don't concern themselves with what the player can't do, only what they can. The player moves from environment to environment, simply mowing down anything in their path. Now, I love the first-person shooter as much as the next guy, but these limitations imposed by the rules of engagement help not only to separate the game from its peers, it makes a game that is more fun by building tension, where the player has to consider every target, what they're shooting at, and when they're shooting. As a kid, I grew up on the early Ghost Recons and Rainbow Sixes of the world. While I liked Ghost Recon a fair bit, I always preferred Rainbow Six because it had hostages. In Ghost Recon, one really only has to worry about positioning, movement, and shooting. But in Rainbow Six, opening the wrong door at the wrong time meant a bad guy wouldn't shoot at you, they'd shoot at the hostage. SWAT4 managed to carry this tradition forward and build upon it. Every moment in this game drips with tension. You never know how someone's going to react. It's not just differentiating the bad guys from the hostages, but how those parties react in different situations. Sometimes bad guys run, sometimes good guys run, sometimes people surrender, and sometimes they come out guns blazing. And sometimes they start in one state, be it running or shooting, and then change their mind and surrender. The player has to stay fluid in this situation, keeping their cool and only using force when there's no other alternative. You have to not only save the hostage, but secure them and any weapons on the scene, all the while wondering if a bad guy will pop out at any moment. Failing to secure those weapons or those hostages can result in getting shot in the back. And then there's this Karen I had to pepper spray in the face.
How dare
Put your
you
hands
come
up
in
and get
here?
down! Get down! Hands in the air!
Out of my house, you!
Police, on your knees!
I can't believe this is happening. Oh,
Get
my
down!
eyes!
This tension, this randomization, this variety in tactics the player is offered adds to a truly unique experience in the FPS space. I've yet to play a game that captured these thoughts, this decision-making, this tension, as well as SWAT4 does through its rules of engagement. So go play SWAT4. It's like $10 on GOG. Even better, get a couple of friends together and play co-op. It's a blast seeing which of your friends forgot to check the bathrooms, or which person in your group keeps shooting hostages because they have an itchy trigger finger. In our group, I was always that guy, but I'm getting better about it. I'll also try and get better about the timing of these videos, because this one was rough. I have a new book out. It's not about police brutality, but it is about the executive branch of the federal government. Rebuilding the Executive examines how our government functions, the areas where it needs improvement, and how we can fix it. If you want to support the channel, you can check it out on Amazon Kindle or Google Play. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.